Commander Hana stared at the monitor screen with growing worry. The numbers made no sense. The energy reading was bigger than anything she had ever seen in her 20 years of watching space. Her 4 arms moved quickly across the control panel, checking the sensors again and again. "This cannot be right," she whispered to herself. The monitoring station around Vexus Prime was the most advanced in the galaxy. It could spot a small ship from 3 star systems away, but this reading showed something massive coming toward them through hyperspace. Behind her, the other station workers moved around nervously. They had all seen the numbers. Officer Kyle, a tall being with green skin, walked over to Hana's station. "Commander, should we send a warning to the Galactic Council?" he asked, his voice shaking slightly. Hana looked at the screen one more time. The object was still moving toward them at incredible speed. In just a few hours, it would drop out of hyperspace near their position. She had never seen energy readings this high. Even the largest warships in the galaxy were tiny compared to this thing. "Yes," she said finally. "Send an emergency message to the council. Tell them something big is coming. Very big." Far away on the council station, Ambassador Woon received the message while drinking his morning tea. He was an old diplomat who had seen many crises in his long life. His people, the Kalari, were known for staying calm in dangerous situations. But when he read Hana's report, his teacup fell from his hands. "Yuna!" he called out. "Come here quickly!" Defense. Coordinator Yuna ran into the room. She was young for her position, but her skills in military planning were respected throughout the galaxy. Her red hair bounced as she hurried to Woon's desk. "What is wrong?" she asked, seeing the fear in his eyes. "Look at this," Woon said, showing her the message. "A ship larger than anything we have ever recorded is heading toward the Vexus system." Yuna read the report twice before speaking. "These energy readings, they are impossible. No civilization in our records could build something this large." "That is what worries me," Woon replied. "If someone has built a ship this big, what do they want? And why are they coming to our space?" Back at the monitoring station, Hana watched as space itself seemed to tear open. The hyperspace window that formed was enormous, 10 times larger than the biggest she had ever seen. Blue and white energy crackled around the edges as something began to emerge. First came the nose of the ship. It was dark metal, smooth and clean, but it kept coming and coming. The front section alone was larger than most space stations. Then came the main body, stretching out like a metal mountain floating in space. "By the stars," whispered Officer Kale. "How big is this thing?" Hana's instruments worked frantically to measure the ship. The numbers that appeared on her screen made her feel sick. The vessel was over 15 kilometers long and 5 kilometers wide. Its mass readings were off the charts. This single ship was larger than some of the Council's entire fleets combined. The ship finished emerging from hyperspace and came to a stop. For long minutes, it just sat there in space, silent and dark. Then slowly, lights began to appear along its hull. The ship was covered in what looked like windows, thousands and thousands of them, glowing with warm yellow light. "It looks like a city," Kale said quietly. "A flying city." Hana was about to respond when her communication system started beeping. Someone was trying to contact the station. She looked at the source of the signal and felt her blood turn cold. It was coming from the massive ship. With shaking hands, she opened the communication channel. A voice came through the speakers, speaking in a language none of them had heard before. But then, something amazing happened. The ship's computers began translating the words into galactic standard. "Greetings, unknown station. This is Captain Minho of the human vessel Indomitable Dawn. We come in peace and wish to establish diplomatic contact with your people. Please respond if you can understand this message." Hana stared at the communication panel. Humans? She had never heard of such a species, and they were calling this mountain of metal their ship? She pressed the reply button with a trembling finger. "This is Commander Hana of Monitoring Station Vexus 7. We receive your message. Please state your intentions." "Thank you for responding. Commander Hana, we are explorers from the planet Earth. We have traveled a great distance to find other intelligent life. We request permission to meet with representatives of your government for peaceful first contact." On his ship, Captain Minho smiled as he heard the alien commander's response. He was a middle-aged man with kind eyes and gray hair at his temples. He had dreamed of this moment since he was a child, the first meeting between humans and alien life. "Nari," he called to his science officer. "Are you getting good readings on their technology?" Science officer Nari looked up from her instruments. She was young and brilliant, with short black hair and quick hands that danced over her controls. "Yes, Captain. Very interesting. Their sensors are quite advanced, but their power systems seem limited compared to ours. Remember, we are here to make friends, not to judge," Minho reminded her gently. "Every species develops differently." Back on the monitoring station, Hana was trying to process what she was hearing. These humans claimed to be peaceful explorers, but they had arrived in a ship that could probably destroy entire planets. She needed help from people much smarter than herself. "Commander," Officer Kale said nervously, "the Galactic Council is requesting immediate communication." Hana nodded and opened a channel to the council station. Ambassador Woon's worried face appeared on the screen immediately. "Hana, what is the situation? Our long-range sensors are showing massive energy signatures. Ambassador, we have made contact with an unknown species. They call themselves humans, and they claim to come in peace. But their ship—" Hana paused, trying to find the right words. "Sir, their ship is enormous. I have never seen anything like it." Defense Coordinator Yuna stepped into view next to Woon. "How enormous?" she asked. "Over 15 kilometers long. The mass readings suggest it has enough firepower to destroy everything." In this system, Woon and Yuna looked at each other with growing alarm. No known species possessed technology capable of building such massive vessels. If these humans had hostile intentions, the galaxy could be facing an extinction-level threat. "Keep them talking," Woon ordered. "Try to learn as much as you can about their intentions. We are calling an emergency council meeting." Meanwhile, Captain Minho was having his own concerns. His ship's sensors were picking up signs of multiple civilizations throughout this region of space. The technology levels varied greatly, but all of them seemed far behind human capabilities. "Captain," called Engineer Day from his station, "I'm detecting what appears to be a large space station about 2 light hours away. The energy signatures suggest it might be some kind of government facility." Minho nodded thoughtfully. "Probably their capital or main diplomatic center. We will wait for them to make the first move. We do not want to seem threatening." The irony of his statement was lost on the captain. To him, the Indomitable Dawn was just a standard diplomatic vessel, lightly armed and designed for comfort during long missions. He had no idea that to the aliens watching him, his peaceful ship looked like the ultimate weapon of war. As both sides tried to understand each other, neither realized they were about to discover just how different their definitions of powerful and peaceful really were. 3 days after first contact, a meeting was arranged on Neutral Station Omega, a small diplomatic outpost halfway between human and Galactic Council space. Ambassador Woon had barely slept during those 3 days. Every military expert in the galaxy had told him the same thing. The human ship was impossibly powerful. Defense Coordinator Yuna walked beside him through the station corridors. Her red hair was tied back tightly, and her face showed the stress of the past few days. Behind them came the galaxy's best scientists and diplomats, all nervous about meeting these mysterious humans. "Remember," Woon said quietly, "we must not appear weak, but we also cannot afford to make them angry. If they wanted to destroy us, they could have done it already." The meeting room was simple and clean. Large windows showed the stars outside, and a round table sat in the center. The aliens took their seats and waited. They did not have to wait long. The door opened, and 3 humans walked in. Ambassador Woon was surprised by how ordinary they looked. Captain Minho was of average height with graying hair. Dr. Sung, the xenobiologist, was a small woman with glasses and a friendly smile. Engineer Day was young and carried a bag of equipment. "Greetings," Captain Minho said, bowing slightly. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us. We are honored to be the first humans to meet other intelligent species." Woon stood up and bowed back. "Welcome, Captain Minho. I am Ambassador Woon of the Galactic Council. This is Defense Coordinator Yuna, and these are our scientific advisors." Everyone sat down, and an uncomfortable silence filled the room. Finally, Dr. Sung spoke up. "We are very excited to learn about your civilizations," she said. "From what our sensors have told us, there are many different species in this region of space. This is wonderful. We had hoped to find life, but we never imagined we would find so much diversity." Yuna leaned forward. "Dr. Shung, we must ask about your ship. Our sensors indicate it has enormous destructive capability. Are there more ships like it?" Dr. Seung looked confused. "Destructive capability? Oh, you mean the defensive systems? Yes. The Indomitable Dawn has standard protection systems, but it is not a warship. It is a diplomatic vessel designed for long-range contact missions." The aliens looked at each other in shock. Woon felt his hearts beating faster. "Not a warship?" he asked slowly. Captain Minho shook his head. "No, Ambassador. The Indomitable Dawn is what we would call a light cruiser, modified for diplomatic work. Most of its space is used for laboratories, cultural centers, and living quarters for the crew." Engineer Day opened his equipment bag and pulled out a small device. "Would you like to see some of our basic technology? Perhaps we can learn from each other." Without waiting for an answer, Day activated the device. A three-dimensional image appeared in the air above the table. It showed the inside of the human ship, with detailed technical specifications floating beside it. Yuna stared at the numbers and felt sick. The ship's fusion reactors produced more power than her entire homeworld, used in a year. Its defensive shields could withstand the combined firepower of the entire galactic defense fleet. And according to these specifications, this was considered a small ship by human standards. "How many people live on your ship?" Woon asked, trying to keep his voice steady. "Currently, about 8,000, Captain Minho replied. But it can hold up to 15,000 comfortably. We brought scientists, diplomats, artists, teachers, and their families. We wanted to be prepared for long-term cultural exchange." Dr. Shung pulled out her own device and showed images of Earth. The aliens saw a blue and green world with massive cities, orbital stations, and ships that made their own vessels look like toys. "This is our home system," she explained. "We have about 12 billion people on Earth itself, and another 8 billion living on various space stations and colonies throughout our solar system." The alien scientists frantically took notes. 20 billion humans in just one solar system? Their entire galactic council represented only 30 billion beings across 200 worlds. Engineer Day continued his presentation, showing the aliens human computers that could process information faster than their greatest supercomputers. He demonstrated medical technology that could regrow lost limbs in hours. He showed them farming techniques that could feed millions from small spaces. "This is impossible," whispered one of the alien scientists. "How did you develop such advanced technology so quickly? How old is your civilization?" Dr. Seung thought for a moment. "Well, we have had cities for about 10,000 years. We have had spaceflight for about 300 years. Our first faster-than-light ship was built 60 years ago." The aliens stared in shock. Their own civilizations were thousands of years older than humanity, but their technology was centuries behind. "How?" Yuna asked simply. Captain Minho looked sad. "Our world was very dangerous. We had to become strong to survive. Wars, diseases, natural disasters, asteroid impacts. Earth tried to kill us many times. We learned to build things that could protect us from anything, even from each other," Dr. Shung added quietly. "Humans spent a long time fighting among ourselves. We built terrible weapons, but eventually we learned that working together was better than fighting." She showed them images of human history, wars that covered entire continents, weapons that could destroy cities, disasters that killed millions. But she also showed them how humans had overcome these challenges by developing better technology and learning to cooperate. Engineer Day pulled out another device. "Would you like to see our quantum computers? They help us solve complex problems very quickly." The device projected mathematical equations that made the alien scientists' heads hurt just looking at them. The computer solved physics problems in seconds that would take their best minds months to figure out. "We use these to design our ships," Day explained. "Every part is tested millions of times in computer simulations before we build it. This way, we know everything will work perfectly." Science Officer Nari's voice came through Captain Minho's communication device. She was still on the human ship, studying the alien technology. Captain, I have completed initial scans of their vessels and stations. The technology is very interesting, but it appears to be several hundred years behind our current level. The aliens heard this and looked at each other nervously. Nari continued speaking, not realizing she was being heard. Their power systems are quite limited, and their materials science is primitive. However, they have developed some clever solutions to work around these limitations. I recommend we share some of our basic technologies to help them advance. Woon felt dizzy. The humans were talking about sharing their basic technologies like parents helping children with homework. These people, who had arrived in a ship that could conquer the galaxy, were worried about how to help the aliens catch up. Captain Minho, Woon said carefully, may I ask how many ships Earth has? Minho thought for a moment. Active military vessels? Probably around 50,000, but most of those are patrol ships and system defense craft. We have maybe 5,000 ships capable of interstellar travel. The room fell silent. The entire Galactic Council had less than 10,000 ships total, and most of those were small. Fighters or transport vessels? And exploratory vessels like yours? Yuna asked weakly. Oh, the Indomitable Dawn is the only one of its class so far. We built it specifically for first contact missions, but we have plans to build more if we meet friendly species who want to establish cultural exchange programs. Dr. Seung smiled brightly. We are hoping to set up student exchange programs, joint research projects, art exhibitions, so many wonderful possibilities. The alien diplomats looked at her cheerful face and tried to process what they had learned. These humans had technology that could easily conquer their entire civilization. They had arrived in what they considered a small diplomatic ship, but which outgunned anything the galaxy had ever seen. They had weapons that could crack planets and computers that made alien technology look like stone tools, and they wanted to set up art exhibitions. Ambassador Woon realized that everything he thought he knew about First Contact was wrong. The humans were not conquerors or warriors. They were explorers and teachers who happened to be so advanced that they could accidentally destroy civilizations without even noticing. Captain Minho, Woon said slowly. I think we need to talk about what comes next very carefully. Minho nodded, sensing the tension in the room. Of course, Ambassador. We want to make sure we do this right. Meeting new friends is important, and we want everyone to feel comfortable. As the humans continued to smile and talk about friendship, the aliens began to understand that they were dealing with something completely unprecedented, a species so powerful that they could afford to be genuinely peaceful. Admiral Kyung was enjoying his morning coffee when the emergency alerts started screaming through his ship. He was a calm man who had served in the human fleet for 30 years, but the panic in his communications officer's voice made him put down his cup quickly. Admiral, we are receiving distress signals from the first contact zone. Multiple alien civilizations are reporting massive energy signatures approaching their space. Kyung frowned and walked to the main display. Show me the scanner readings. The holographic display lit up with dozens of blips moving through space toward the alien territories. Each blip represented a human vessel, but Kyung knew what they really were. Those are not warships, he said, shaking his head. That is the merchant fleet. And those 3 large signatures are university research vessels. His aide, Lieutenant Commander Bach, looked confused. Sir, why would merchants and researchers be heading toward first contact space? Kyung smiled slightly. Because the news has spread, Lieutenant. Every human in this sector of space wants to meet the aliens. The merchants smell new trade opportunities. The researchers want to study alien science. The university ships probably have 10,000 students on board who want to be part of history. What Admiral Kyung saw as normal human excitement, the aliens interpreted very differently. On the Galactic Council emergency station, General Ina stared at the tactical display with growing horror. The human energy signatures were massive and numerous. Her military analysts had calculated that even one of these ships could destroy entire fleets. How many are coming? She asked her aide. Current count shows 47 vessels, General. More are appearing on long-range sensors every hour. General Ina was a veteran of several small wars between council species. She had commanded fleets and planned defensive strategies for decades. But she had never faced anything like this. The humans were bringing a force that could exterminate every civilization in the galaxy. They lied to us, she said bitterly. All that talk of peace and friendship was just to make us lower our defenses. Now they are bringing their invasion fleet. She turned to her communications officer. Send immediate orders to all council fleets. Full mobilization. Every ship, every station, every defensive platform. If humanity wants a war, we will give them one. Across the galaxy, the largest military force in recorded history began to assemble. Ships from 200 different worlds converged on strategic positions. Ancient weapons were powered up for the first time in centuries. Entire planets began evacuating their populations to hidden colonies. Captain Tay, commander of the human cargo vessel Prosperity, was completely unaware of the panic he was causing. His ship was loaded with goods that he hoped to trade with the aliens, Earth foods, entertainment systems, clothing, and artwork. He was a simple merchant who saw opportunity in first contact. "Dara," he called to his navigator, "are you sure we are going the right way? I am not seeing any trade beacons or commercial signals." Navigator Dara checked her instruments. "Yes, Captain. We are following the route published by the diplomatic mission. We should reach alien space in about 6 hours." What Dara could not see was the massive alien fleet that was positioning itself directly in their path. General Ina had deployed the entire Galactic Defense Fleet, over 10,000 ships in a defensive formation that stretched across 3 star systems. On the Council command ship, General Ina watched as more human vessels appeared on her sensors. The alien military computers tried to analyze the human ships, but kept reporting impossible results. Even the smallest human vessel showed energy readings higher than her flagship. "General," her weapons officer reported, "our targeting computers cannot get a proper lock on the human ships. Their defensive systems are interfering with our sensors." Ina nodded grimly. "They are jamming us, probably testing our defenses before they attack." In reality, the human ships were not jamming anything. Their standard defensive shields were simply so advanced that the alien sensors could not penetrate them. It was like trying to see through a wall by throwing pebbles at it. Dr. Young, a cultural specialist aboard one of the approaching human research vessels, was the first to realize what was happening. She had been monitoring alien communications and noticed the increasing military chatter. "Captain Park," she called to her ship commander, "I think we have a problem. The aliens are interpreting our approach as hostile." Captain Park was a young officer who commanded the research vessel Curious Mind. His ship was loaded with anthropologists, linguists, and cultural experts who wanted to study the new alien civilizations. "Hostile? But we sent friendly greetings. On all frequencies. Our intentions should be clear." Dr. Young showed him the alien communication intercepts. "They are mobilizing their entire military, Captain. They think we are an invasion force." Park looked at the data and felt his stomach sink. "Contact Admiral Kyung immediately. We need to stop this before someone gets hurt." Back on Admiral Kyung's flagship, the emergency communication from Dr. Young caused immediate concern. Kyung realized that the situation was spiraling out of control. "All human vessels, this is Admiral Kyung. Stop your advance immediately. Repeat, all ships stop where you are." Throughout human space, merchant captains and research commanders looked at their orders with confusion. Captain Tay was particularly puzzled. "Stop? But we are still 2 days away from the trade zones. Why would we stop here?" The answer came from General Ina's fleet. As the human vessels slowed to a halt, the alien military formation became visible on long-range sensors. Thousands and thousands of alien ships spread across space in the largest battle formation any human had ever seen. "Dear stars," whispered Navigator Dara, "look at all those ships." Captain Tay studied the alien fleet with growing amazement. "There must be 10,000 vessels out there. Maybe more. I have never seen so many ships in one place. What impressed?" The humans, as an amazing display of coordination and numbers, horrified the aliens for a different reason. General Ina watched as the human vessels came to a stop just outside weapons range. Her sensors showed that the humans were now just sitting there, as if they were not concerned about the massive fleet facing them. "They are not afraid," General Ina said with grudging respect. "They see our entire fleet and they are not running." Her tactical officer studied his displays nervously. "General, our computers are still having trouble analyzing their ships. But based on energy output alone, any one of their vessels could probably defeat our entire fleet. General Ina closed her eyes and tried to think. Military training told her to attack first, before the humans could organize their assault. But logic told her that attacking would be suicide for her people. On the human diplomatic vessel, Captain Minho was working frantically with Dr. Young to establish communication with the alien fleet. They needed to explain the misunderstanding before someone made a terrible mistake. General Ina, Captain Minho's voice came through the alien communication system. This is Captain Minho of the human diplomatic mission. Please respond. We need to talk. General Ina hesitated before answering. Captain Minho, you have brought a massive fleet into our space. What are your intentions? General, those are not military vessels. They are merchants and researchers who heard about First Contact and wanted to meet your people. They mean no harm. Merchants? General Ina looked at her tactical display. Captain, our sensors show those ships have enough firepower to destroy planets. There was a long pause before Captain Minho answered. General, those are civilian vessels. Yes, they have defensive systems, but they are not designed for war. They are carrying trade goods and scientific equipment. Dr. Young took over the communication. General Ina, I am Dr. Young, a specialist in cultural misunderstandings. I believe we have a serious problem here. May I suggest a meeting between our representatives to discuss this situation? General Ina looked around her command bridge at the faces of her officers. They all showed the same mixture of fear and confusion that she felt. Dr. Young, what guarantee? Can you give that this is not a trick? General, if we wanted to attack you, would we have stopped when you asked? Would we be talking instead of fighting? The alien general considered this. The human fleet had indeed stopped when requested, and they were asking for talks instead of making demands. Very well, Dr. Young, but the meeting will be on neutral ground, with equal numbers of representatives, and our fleets will remain in position. Agreed, General. We will meet on the same neutral station where we held our first diplomatic contact. As say. Both sides prepared for another crucial meeting. Neither fully understood how close they had come to a war that would have been over in minutes. The aliens were prepared to sacrifice themselves to defend their civilizations. The humans were confused about why anyone would think their merchants and researchers were threatening. The greatest misunderstanding in galactic history was about to be resolved. But first, both sides would have to learn just how different their perspectives really were. Commander June stood on the bridge of the human destroyer Resilient Hope and looked at the impossible situation facing both fleets. He was a careful man who had spent most of his career avoiding fights, not starting them. But now he found himself in the middle of the biggest misunderstanding in galactic history. Sir, his communications officer called out. Admiral Kyung is requesting a private channel. Jun nodded and stepped into his ready room. Admiral Kyung's worried face appeared on the screen immediately. Jun, we need to do something before this. Situation explodes. The aliens think our merchants are an invasion force. General Ina has her finger on the trigger, and her people are scared enough to do something stupid. What do you suggest, Admiral? Kyung was quiet for a moment. We need to show them what they are really dealing with. Not to threaten them, but to make them understand that if we wanted to hurt them, we would not need 47 ships to do it. Jun understood immediately. A demonstration. Exactly. Something that shows our capabilities without pointing weapons at anyone. Can you do it? Commander June thought about his ship and crew. The Resilient Hope was a small destroyer. Barely. 300 meters long. Compared to the massive diplomatic vessel or the merchant ships, it was tiny. But it was still a human warship, built to the same impossible standards as everything else Earth created. Yes, Admiral, I can do it. But we need to be very careful about how we present this. 20 minutes later, representatives from both sides were gathered again on neutral station Omega. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut with a knife. General Ina sat across from Commander June, her eyes full of suspicion and fear. Ambassador Hyun, the senior human diplomat, spoke first. General, we understand your concerns. You see our civilian vessels as a threat because they are larger and more advanced than your military ships. We want to demonstrate that we truly come in peace. How? General Ina asked coldly. Commander June leaned forward. General, I command a small human destroyer. It is one of our smaller military vessels. I propose to show you what human military technology can actually do, using a target that threatens no one. General Ina's aide whispered in her ear, probably warning her about tricks. She nodded slowly. What kind of demonstration? There is an uninhabited asteroid about 2 light minutes from here. No life, no resources, nothing of value. I will demonstrate our weapons capability on that target. Dr. Young, the cultural specialist, added, General, we want you to understand the difference between our civilian and military vessels. The merchants and researchers you are facing have strong defenses, but they are not weapons of war. General Ina studied their faces. And if I agree to this demonstration, what guarantee do I have that you will not turn those weapons on us? Ambassador Hyun looked directly into her eyes. General, if we wanted to attack you, why would we ask permission first? Why would we warn you what we were going to do? After a long pause, General Ina nodded. Very well, but my fleet will maintain full defensive positions during this demonstration. Of course, Commander Jun replied. That is only wise. An hour later, both fleets had moved to safe positions around the target asteroid. The rock was about 50 kilometers across, roughly the size of a small moon. It had been floating in space for millions of years, cold and lifeless. On the alien command ship, General Ina watched her sensors as the small human destroyer approached the target. Lieutenant Bora, the ship's weapons officer, was making final preparations for the demonstration. Captain, Bora called out, all systems are ready. The target is clear of any debris that might threaten other vessels. Commander Jun opened a communication channel to all ships in the area. This is Commander Jun of the Resilient Hope. We will now demonstrate standard human defensive capabilities. Please observe. On the alien ships, thousands of sensors focused on the small human destroyer. The vessel was tiny compared to the massive merchant ships they had been facing, but their instruments still showed energy readings that made no sense. Lieutenant Bora pressed a single button on her control panel. A beam of pure energy, no thicker, than a pencil, shot out from the Resilient Hope toward the asteroid. The result was immediate and terrifying. The 50-kilometer asteroid simply disappeared. One moment it was there, a solid chunk of rock and metal that had existed for eons. The next moment there was nothing but expanding gas and tiny particles. The energy release from the asteroid's destruction sent shockwaves through space. Every alien sensor array within 3 star systems overloaded and shut down automatically to protect themselves. Ships that were light minutes away felt their shields activate against the residual energy waves. On General Ina's flagship, emergency alarms screamed as the ship's defensive systems responded to energy readings that broke their instruments. The bridge lights flickered as power was automatically diverted to the shields. Report, General Ina shouted over the noise. Her science officer looked at his displays with shaking hands. General, the asteroid is gone. Completely gone. Our sensors registered an energy release equivalent to several fusion bombs, but it was perfectly controlled. No dangerous radiation, no debris field that could threaten navigation. General Ina stared at the empty space where the asteroid had been. One shot? One shot, General. And according to our readings, that destroyer barely used any power to do it. Its energy levels are still at maximum. Across the alien fleet, the same scene was playing out on every ship. Captains and crew members looked at their instruments and tried to understand what they had just witnessed. The human destroyer had casually erased a moon-sized rock from existence, and it had done it as easily as a person might turn on a light. Commander Jun's voice came through the communication system again. General Ina, I hope that demonstration was helpful. I want to emphasize that the Resilient Hope is a small military vessel. The civilian ships in our merchant fleet have strong defensive systems, but they could not do what you just saw. General Ina found her voice. Commander, that was impressive. May I ask what class of weapon that was? Lieutenant Bora answered from the human ship. General, that was a standard point defense laser, normally used for destroying small missiles or debris that might threaten the ship. It is our smallest weapon system. The alien general felt the room spin around her. Their smallest weapon could destroy moons. What could their largest weapons do? Ambassador Hyun's voice was gentle when he spoke. General, now you understand why we are confused about your concerns. To us, your entire fleet represents no threat at all. We could never see you as enemies because you could never hurt us. even if you tried. But that is not why we are here, Commander June added. We did not come to your space to show off our weapons. We came because we wanted to meet you, to learn from you, to become friends. Dr. Young pulled out her cultural analysis device. General, may I show you something about human nature? Without waiting for permission, she activated a holographic display showing Earth's history. The images showed humans fighting terrible wars, surviving natural disasters, and slowly learning to work together. We became strong because our world tried to kill us, she explained. Earthquakes, volcanoes, ice ages, asteroid impacts, diseases. Earth threw everything at us. We learned to build things that could protect us from anything. The display showed human cities built to withstand earthquakes, space stations designed to survive asteroid impacts, and medical technology that could cure diseases that had killed millions. But we also learned something else, Dr. Young continued. We learned that survival is easier when we work together. Our strength comes from our desire to protect others, not to conquer them. She showed images of human rescue operations, medical missions, and disaster relief efforts. The same technology that could destroy asteroids was used to save lives and rebuild civilizations. General Ina watched the images and slowly began to understand. These humans had not become powerful by conquering others. They had become powerful by surviving in a hostile universe, and they had learned to use that power to protect instead of destroy. Commander June, she said slowly, if your people are so powerful, why do you want to be friends with us? What could we possibly offer you? Commander June smiled. General, you offer us the greatest gift in the universe, knowledge. Every species develops differently. You have ideas and perspectives that we have never considered. Your art, your philosophy, your science, all of it is valuable to us. Ambassador Hyun nodded. We are not looking for subjects or servants, General. We are looking for teachers and friends. The galaxy is big enough for all of us to live in peace. General Ina looked around the room at her officers. They were all staring at the empty space where the asteroid had been, trying to process what they had learned. Finally, she turned back to the humans. I think, she said carefully, that we need to have a much longer conversation about what friendship between our peoples might look like. Commander June smiled. General, that sounds like the beginning of something wonderful. As both fleets stood down from alert status, the galaxy took its first step toward a new age of cooperation between species that were more different than anyone had ever imagined possible. 6 months after first contact, Species Representative Ray stood at the observation deck of Earth Station Alpha and tried to make sense of what she was seeing. The massive orbital facility hung in space above the blue and white planet that humanity called home. Through the transparent walls, she could see the impossible sight that had become normal during her stay with the humans. Children were playing in a garden. That should not have been strange, except that the garden was built inside what her instruments told her was one of the most heavily armed warships in the galaxy. Human families lived on vessels that could crack planets, and they had somehow made them into homes. It is beautiful, is it not? Captain Sue asked, joining her at the window. The human shipyard commander had become her guide during the cultural exchange program. He was a kind man with gentle eyes, but Ray knew that he commanded facilities capable of building weapons of unimaginable power. I still do not understand, Ray admitted. How do your people live so peacefully surrounded by such terrible weapons? Captain Sue smiled. They are only terrible if you use them for terrible purposes. We use them to protect what we love. He pointed to another section of the shipyard where a massive vessel was under construction. That ship there will be home to 50,000 colonists when it is finished. It has defensive systems that could fight off entire fleets, but it will be used to establish a new colony in a distant star system. Ray watched as human workers moved around the construction site. They were building a city that could fly between stars, and they were doing it with the same technology that could destroy civilizations. In my culture, she said slowly, weapons and homes are different things. We cannot imagine combining them. On Earth, they were always combined, Captain Sue replied. Our homes had to be strong enough to survive earthquakes and storms. Our ships had to be tough enough to handle asteroid impacts and solar radiation. We learned to build everything as if the universe was trying to kill it. Dr. Young joined them at the observation window. The cultural specialist had been working with alien delegations for months, helping them understand human society. Representative Ray, how are your people adapting to the cultural exchange program? Ray thought about the question. It is overwhelming. Yesterday, I watched human children learning to operate computer systems more advanced than our best military equipment. They were using it to create art projects. Dr. Young laughed softly. Yes, our children grow up surrounded by advanced technology. We want them to see it as a tool for creation, not destruction. Through the window, they could see another human vessel approaching the station. It was one of the new joint exploration ships, a massive vessel that carried both human and alien crews on missions to unknown regions of space. Admiral Kang's voice came through the station communication system. All personnel, please welcome the return of the Harmony of Worlds from their successful first mission to the Andromeda approach vector. Ray felt a mixture of emotions as she watched the ship dock. 3 months ago, the idea of aliens and humans working together on the same vessel would have seemed impossible. Now, mixed crews were becoming common throughout the galaxy. How many species are participating in the exploration program now? She asked. Captain Sue checked his tablet. 47 species have committed to joint missions. We have 12 exploration vessels in service, with 8 more under construction. The numbers still amazed Ray. Humanity had gone from unknown species to the center of galactic cooperation in less than a year, not through conquest or intimidation, but by offering to share their incredible technology with anyone who wanted to learn. Representative Ray, Dr. Young said, I have been meaning to ask you about something. Your preliminary report mentioned that some of your people are still afraid of humans. What can we do to help with that? Ray sighed. It is difficult to explain. For thousands of years, my people have believed that great power leads to great corruption. We cannot understand how humans can be so powerful and still be kind. Captain Sue nodded thoughtfully. Perhaps we should arrange for more of your people to visit Earth. Sometimes seeing our daily life helps aliens understand that we are not so different from them. That would be helpful, Ray agreed. But I think the real problem is that we measure strength differently than you do. In our culture, strength means the ability to dominate others. In human culture, strength means the ability to protect others. Dr. Young smiled. You are learning quickly, Representative. That is exactly the difference. A group of alien students walked past the observation window, chatting excitedly with their human classmates. They were part of the educational exchange program that had become one of the most popular aspects of human-alien cooperation. The young ones adapt so quickly, Ray observed. My daughter is part of the student program. She tells me that human children are taught to think of their technology as a responsibility, not a privilege. That is correct, Captain Sue confirmed. We teach our children that with great capability comes great responsibility. The more powerful your tools, the more careful you must be with them. Admiral Kang arrived at the observation deck, having just finished welcoming the returning exploration crew. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes, but his face lit up when he saw the mixed group of humans and aliens. Representative Ray, I hope your stay has been educational. Very much so, Admiral. I have learned more about human nature in 6 months than my people learned about themselves in centuries. Admiral Kang looked out at the bustling shipyard where vessels from dozens of different species were being built side by side. It is remarkable what we can accomplish when we work together. The exploration vessel that just returned discovered 3 new star systems and made contact with 2 previously unknown species. And they all want to join the cooperation program, Dr. Young added. Word is spreading throughout the galaxy that humans are willing to share their technology freely. Ray shook her head in amazement. That is another thing my people cannot understand. Why do humans give away their most advanced technology? Do you not fear that other species will use it against you? Admiral Kang was quiet for a moment before answering. Representative, let me ask you a question. If you had the power to feed every hungry person in the galaxy, would you keep it secret because you were afraid someone might misuse it? No, of course not. That is how we feel about all technology. It is meant to improve life, not to give us advantages over others. We share it because keeping it secret would be wrong. Through the communication system, they heard an announcement about another arriving ship. This one carried a delegation from the Outer Rim territories, species that had only recently learned about the human-alien cooperation program. More visitors, Captain Sue observed. We are going to need bigger facilities soon. That is a good problem to have, Admiral Kang replied. General Ina told me that the Galactic Council is planning to establish a permanent embassy here within the year. Ray smiled. General Ina has changed her opinion about humans quite dramatically. She now calls human ships guardians of the galaxy instead of weapons of extinction. She understands that strength and aggression are not the same thing, Dr. Young said. That was the most important lesson from First Contact. As the day continued, Ray watched the daily life of the space station. Human engineers worked alongside alien scientists to design new exploration vessels. Children from a dozen different species played together in the station's schools. Artists from various cultures collaborated on projects that combined their different perspectives. What struck her most was how normal it all seemed. The humans treated their alien guests not as exotic visitors, but as neighbors and friends. They shared their technology, their knowledge, and their homes without hesitation. That evening, Ray sat in her quarters writing her final report for the Galactic Council. She tried to find words to describe what she had learned about humanity. The Phi. Humans are not conquerors, she wrote. They are gardeners. They use their incredible power to help other species grow and flourish. They have turned their weapons into tools, their warships into homes, and their strength into a gift for the entire galaxy. She paused and looked out her window at the Earth below. The planet that had forged humanity was beautiful and peaceful from orbit. But she now knew it was also dangerous and violent. That combination had created a species that was both the most powerful and most compassionate in the galaxy. The humans have taught us that true strength comes not from the ability to destroy, but from the choice to create. They could rule the galaxy through fear, but instead they choose to lead through hope. As she finished her report, Ray realized that First Contact had changed more than just human-alien relations. It had changed how every species in the galaxy thought about power, responsibility, and cooperation. The age of isolated civilizations was ending. The age of galactic community was just beginning, and at the center of it all were the humans, the species that had learned to turn the tools of war into instruments of peace. Outside her window, the stars seemed brighter than they had ever been before. The galaxy felt smaller and friendlier, filled with possibilities that none of them had imagined just a year ago. Tomorrow, Ray would return to her homeworld to share what she had learned.